Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through a list that I and some of my friends compiled about things that you ought to know about Baylor or just generally about a college experience before going to university in the fall. I know that especially for incoming freshmen this semester is going to be really strange. A lot of people aren't going to be able to line camp or welcome week, which are Baylor events where we usually welcome the freshmen into our new class and you actually get to walk around the campus, familiarize yourself with everything that's going on, and that's probably not going to happen this summer, which is super disappointing. So I figured I would make this video to try to answer some of you guys' questions and maybe prepare you just a little bit before you first step on campus and give you a little bit of the rundown about Baylor. This won't all be Baylor specific, so even if you're not going to Baylor in the fall, keep watching in case there's some information that you might pick up and enjoy learning about. So let's get started. I've broadly broken this up into 3 sections. I have stuff that's more related to campus, social, and academics. So I'm going to start with campus stuff and let's just do this. First off, I would highly recommend you figuring out your way around campus, especially knowing the main buildings. This is something that happened to me and it really solidified during welcome week and line camp. But mostly welcome week, which is the first few days when you're on campus before school starts. They take you around and you get to go to the Farrell Center, which is like the big basketball stadium for certain events, and then they take you to the Sub Bowl to do kind of like initiation sort of thing. That sounds creepy. It's not, it's very fun. So welcome week was when I really actually figured out where all my stuff was, which is good because on Monday you start classes and you have to know where those classes are. So I'd recommend if you're a freshman, maybe kind of familiarizing yourself with the map a little bit, but things aren't really going to solidify until you actually get on campus. I'd highly recommend once you've moved in, just going on a walk around with your friends or your family, or just going by yourself and exploring the campus. It's not terribly large, actually. You can get from one corner to the other in 15 minutes walking, pretty comfortably. Walk your schedule. Just do it. Find your classrooms so you won't be late. Also, speaking of that, when you are having your first day of classes, get there early because the chairs are going to fill up really fast. So if you want to get a good seat, especially if you're in larger classes, I would highly recommend don't just show up right before class like you would ordinarily. Show up early. I made this mistake both semesters because I was a fool. Next one is dining halls. So I thought I'd give you guys a rundown on the major dining halls, kind of what they're like, which ones specialize in which, and let's just go. First of all is Penland. Penland's one that you've probably been to if you've ever been on tour. Smack in the middle of campus, it's the largest. Penland is probably, out of the 4 dining halls, I would probably rate it 3rd. It's really not that great, but it's solidly average. The pros are that it has a huge selection. They always have barbecue, and I'm from Texas, so I'm so good. The rest of the food is kind of so-so. It is very generically average, nothing special. The cons are that sometimes it can get kind of crowded. Next dining hall, I might as well do Memorial. Memorial is between Memorial and Alexander. It's kind of a bit on the edge of campus. A lot of people regard it as the best dining hall, and I'm kind of so-so on that. So the food there's actually pretty good. Flying saucers are outstanding. You can usually get a good selection of food, but they don't change the menu around all that often. It's basically the same stuff all year round, and when you live literally next door in Memorial and you're eating the same thing for the entire year, it gets tiring, but the food is good. Next up is probably what I would rate the number 2 dining hall on campus, which is East Village, which is kind of out in the corner by Teal and the residential colleges in that area. It's actually pretty solid. The salad bar there is excellent. The food selection there is actually pretty good. I was never really in that area because I don't have any science classes in the BSB, and that's kind of where all that stuff is. I don't live in Earl or Teal, so I don't really have a reason to go down there. But I actually started going out of my way because I was getting so sick and tired of eating the same Memorial food literally all the time. So I'd start going to East Village, and it is solidly good. I would recommend. It is pretty great. Memorial and East Village are definitely my favorites. The absolute worst one is Brooks. It's in Brooks College. It's kind of on its own corner of campus. It is old. She's kind of crusty. I literally ate in there once. It is just not fun. If you live in Brooks, I'm sorry. Next up, this is kind of silly, but you might need to know. The golf carts, whether they're doing oh so fast, shipping books around, or ferrying around the athletes who evidently can't walk, they won't go out of their way if you're walking. So I'd recommend if a golf cart's going behind you and they're tailgating you, just move off because they won't hit you, but they'll be kind of mad at you. So just get off the sidewalk whenever they're walking by. Okay, what else? Finding a good study spot. I didn't really find a place where I really like to study until later, but I'd most recommend exploring Moody and Jones libraries. They're actually connected. So what I would recommend if you guys want a little insight into my favorite study spots, If you go into the Starbucks and basically just keep going straight, there will be a corridor. You actually enter the library and it'll say like corridor to Jones Library. If you keep going all the way there, there is a large room on the interior of Jones Library, and they have these like study cubicles that are kind of like, why am I doing my hands? You guys have no idea what I'm talking about probably. Anyways, take my word for it. There are these like study cubicles and they're all done up with whiteboards, and you can like draw on them. So if you're reviewing for tests or like writing an essay or that sort of thing, they're nice and private, so you can just kind of be doing your own thing. There's a ton of tables. If you go upstairs, so continue almost like you're walking out of the library, but then go up the stairs, there's a ton of more seating on the actual like floor level of the library, but that can get kind of loud. Usually the way that Moody Library works is that it gets quieter the higher the floors you get up. Some of the rooms, they like mandate that you like have to be quiet or like keep noise to a minimum. I only studied in there once because it kind of stressed me out. I don't want to be like constrained to being noisy because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm being so noisy. It's fine, it doesn't matter. If there's any areas to watch out for where things get busy, because Baylor's a relatively spread out campus, there's usually like not a huge crush of people in any one place, but I would recommend watching out for between passing periods between Henk Cashin and Spate parking garage. There's a little avenue, and that can get pretty crowded between classes, and Fountain Mall can get pretty crowded at like midday passing periods. That's basically all I have for campus, and now I'm going to move on to social aspects. So first things first, I would most highly recommend going to Late Night. Late Night is a huge event that all of the Baylor organizations put on in like 6 different buildings across campus. So whether you're interested in Panhellenic, which is sororities and fraternities, whether you're interested in like academic clubs, social organizations, like everything, they all show up on one night and fill all these buildings, and you get to go explore. So that's where you can really find clubs that you're interested in and just wandering around and keeping an open mind. If something even seems remotely interesting, just like put your name down. The most they're going to do is send you an email, and you can always opt out of that if you don't want to get any more information from them. I signed up for like a bunch of stuff and followed through with like 3 of them maybe or less, but it's okay because that's what college is about. You're going to explore and find new things. It's not going to be like a super strict obligation if you're just going around and checking things out. In the same vein, keep an eye out for like the big billboards that they'll set up, usually by dining halls or by the Slick, which is the gym, or just like in your residence hall or in your like academic buildings that you're going in, because a lot of really cool organizations will put stuff up about volunteer opportunities, research opportunities, study abroad, etc. So just always kind of keep your eye open for little things like that. Oh, another thing is, depending on whatever your residential situation is, I'd highly recommend seeking out some friends who are interested in the same things that you are, whether that is through your major, or one of the things that I really enjoyed is actually doing intramural sports. I did intramural volleyball. It was pretty lit. We were horrible, but it was great. If you're in a pre-professional program, I highly recommend getting involved with whatever their mailing list services are, or emails, or even like actually going in person to figure out what resources there are for you. I'm in pre-law, so they have a ton of resources. I'm on their email list, so they're always sending out emails about different opportunities and cool things that you can do. So I'd recommend getting some information on that so you can have all the deets on what that is. Another thing, kind of socially related, is if you find a group of friends to go to chapel with, makes it so much more bearable. Just going by yourself and sitting, and like if the people are sitting like 4 seats away from you and you're just like, I hate my life, or you can do the exact same thing but with your friends. Awesome. That is all for social for now. Now I'm going to move on to academics. This is actually my longest section, so let's just get into it. I can't wait. First thing, once you get your syllabi from all of your classes, keep them and put them into some type of organization system. I don't know what works for you. I know what works for me, but whatever you do, I am begging you, if you listen to one thing I have to say, it is this: please put everything in your syllabus in some type of planner, some type of organizer. Put it in your phone. I don't care what you do, but take all that information and put it down as soon as humanly possible. It will keep you on top of all of your activities, everything that you have to do. A test won't come up and totally surprise you, and you'll be like, wait a second, we have a test tomorrow? I had no idea. But you did have an idea because you put it in your planner. Good thinking. I would recommend having some type of planner to keep your assignments in. I don't really know what different study ways work for you. Like when I was in high school, my brother didn't have a planner at all and he just remembered stuff. I think that is tomfoolery, but evidently it worked for him. College is very different than high school though, so if you kind of coasted by generally knowing what you were supposed to do in your high school classes, college isn't quite like that. Stuff can sneak up on you, and you have to prepare for a lot of stuff in advance because tests are more important, papers are more important, things are graded more harshly. please be careful about bringing a high school mentality towards work into college. That's why I'd recommend having a planner. It really helps keep me accountable for all of my assignments. If you have essays, go to the Writing Center. There's something called the University Writing Center where basically you can go and get your papers edited, and you will help edit your papers with usually the ones I've worked with have been like literature, humanities related majors. Basically, you get to read through your paper and talk through things, and they will come help you edit it and suggest changes, reorganize it, work with grammar, spelling, from the most mundane, like simple grammatical things to like the most serious, like intellectual foundations of your essay. I went to the Writing Center with basically every single one of my major essays, and every single time it totally transformed my essay into something that was like kind of okay to something way better. Cannot recommend the Writing Center enough. Please go. It is so good. Another thing, something that you might not know, especially if you're in larger classes. I noticed in larger classes, some of my professors seemed a little more like forbidding, which sounds bad. They weren't mean or anything, but they kind of had like, they were ready for their business. They didn't want to mess around with like high school mentality types of things. They're like, all right, I'm ready to go. However, professors are like 99.9% nicer in their office hours. Even if they were already super nice to begin with, they're like infinitely nicer in their office hours. Professors are really there for you, and to see you go to office hours is really showing that you are willing to put in the effort for their class, and that's something that they probably aren't going to see a whole lot. Putting in the extra mile to really do that impresses them, and they will be very willing to help you. News from my roommate who's a STEM major: if you are in a STEM or mathematics related class, go to SI. But the most important thing is they give you practice tests at SI. Go to SI, acquire the practice test, get that bread. You got this. Please do it. Study groups are good if you're actually serious about them. If you have a group of people who are like, oh my gosh, these are my best friends and we're all going to study for Christian scriptures together, yes. Or are you all just going to go hang out at Starbucks and not really do any homework whatsoever? Now, study groups, I don't think they probably shouldn't just be like, all right, I'm doing my work, I'm in the zone, I'm not interacting with any of my peers at all, because that's no fun. You're there to study and hang out with your friends, and that can be a great thing. But if you're going to be doing a study group, probably try to get a group of people together who you know that you're actually going to study with, people who actually want to study with you and not just chill with. One piece of advice is something that I actually learned a little bit for myself later on in the semester, was that you need to study for different classes in different ways. So different classes will demand different types of studying. For instance, for my grade tech class, it was a literature-based class. So I took notes over the books that we were reading and generally understood what's going on and actually did my reading. And that was basically all I studied. Besides, for example, if we had a test where we had to memorize quotes or something like that, that was so stupid. I can't believe they made us do that. Anyways, if there was a test where I had to do some type of extra work like that, then I would go the extra mile and do that. But for the most part, I just like read the books and knew what was going on and paid attention in class, and that was how I studied. Whereas for some of my other classes, like Christian Heritage, it was much more fact-related and information-dense, something I was going to have to basically regurgitate on a test. So I used Quizlets to study for that. That's just kind of an example of how, in the different classes that you have, even if they're generally in the same field, like humanities, history, etc., you are going to have to somewhat adapt your study habits to be your most effective you when you are studying. I'd recommend trying to get a feel for the sort of things. You can even go to your professors and ask, or former students, you can ask them how they studied for certain classes. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help you, but just know that you probably are going to have to be a little more flexible when you're going with your study habits with your different classes. I think my last tip, which is a little more of a mundane one, is I'd recommend not using a laptop in class if you can avoid it. A lot of professors will tell you they'll all have the same statistic. They're like, students who use a laptop in class usually have a grade that is half a letter grade lower than other students, and even the students around them are also distracted. Anyways, they like saying that because they don't really like being distracted and they can't really tell if you're paying attention, but the main underlying point still stands, is that if you have a laptop, then it will be distracting you. There will be lulls in any lecture, and you're going to want to whip out Twitter or, whatever, and be distracted. I'd highly, highly recommend avoiding using a laptop, not only because it can distract you and also those around you, which is just kind of inconsiderate, but also when you are taking physical notes. What you have to do is you have to listen to the lecture, internalize what the professor is saying, reinterpret it into something of your own words, and then put it down on the page, writing it physically. And that is a whole different dimension of thinking and reinterpreting and almost reteaching yourself as you're putting it down, versus just kind of rotely writing down whatever your professor is saying on the laptop. it's just a much more rich academic experience. That sounds weird. Anyways, it's a better way to study is what I'm trying to say. You're basically studying while you're learning, which is very effective. And then when you go back to your notes, they're going to be in a format that you're familiar with and that you can best study from. Anyways, for the sake of your friends, the people sitting around you, for the sake of your professor, and for the sake of yourself and your own grade, I would actually very much recommend using pen and paper notes. I'm pretty sure that's kind of at the end of my list. I hope that wasn't like information overload or scared anyone, because that's not my intention at all. In fact, coming to Baylor was just one of the best things that I ever did. I love the people here. I have loved almost all of the classes that I've taken here, but overwhelmingly my experience at Baylor has been fantastic. And as much as I can try to like prepare you guys, you're going to learn so much on your own, and you're going to learn different ways how to study, different friends to make, different clubs and organizations to get involved in. So don't take any of this to like frighten you or have you worried about school, because I really think that once you get in there, get your feet wet and have your own learning and growing experience, that you'll learn these things in a much better way than I could ever try to tell you over camera. With that in mind, if you have any specific questions or any general questions, any questions at all, let me know in the comments, and I really will try to get back to you guys as soon as possible, because I know that with summer and everything like that, you're going to be moving in, you probably have a ton of questions, you're buying all your books, figuring out your syllabi and that sort of thing. So please let me know if there are any specific questions that you have, and I will totally be glad to answer them as best I can, whether they're about life at Baylor or just anything in general about college. I am a resource for you guys, so just let me know and I'd be glad to. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you learned a little bit of something, and I am so excited, if you guys are Baylor Bears, to see you next year, and I can't wait. You will have an absolute blast and it'll be awesome. See you later. Bye.